What up, Coordination? On the pod today, we have Regens Unite with Xavier Deman and Lean Shelfhout. I'm sorry, I hope that I'm pronouncing your last names correctly. And we are talking about Regens Unite, which is a community that invites people from a wide range of backgrounds and experiences. So we're talking about not just Web3, but climate movements, NGOs, co-ops, and citizen initiatives to unite together and to learn about regenerative solutions for themselves, for their communities, and their environment. Regens Unite is working on regenerative solutions that will hopefully unite and support each other. Their primary product is the Regens Unite Handbook, where you can run an event in your local city. And I think that you'll get a sense from this episode that Xavier and Lean have just found a really great way to just create a regenerative culture and create a container for all of this regen energy in local environments. And that's why I'm so excited to bring you this episode. It's about permaculture, culture of curation of regenerative experiences. And I just really get a sense from this episode of what that can be like and how we can export that to the world. And so this is a really fun episode for me as a software engineer. I know that you're listening to me as a podcast host, but I still self-identify in my mind as a software engineer to experience the culture and the vibes of the regen movement. So really, really enjoyed this episode, and I think you're going to too. So without further ado, I give you Regens Unite. Enjoy, Coordination.
HairDAO is here to route around the middlemen in biomedical research for hair loss. HairDAO is an open source investment and operating organization using the coordination tools of Ethereum to begin exploring the frontier of biomedical research that bureaucracy and middlemen have previously prevented. Did you know that 66% of men and 50% of women will experience hair loss in their lifetimes? HairDAO has already done some crazy cool science stuff, like their first research study on the impact of synthetic T3 and T4 thyroid hormones on the human scalp, and is also the second DAO ever to mint an IP NFT. So if you want to explore the frontier of the decentralized science movement, and maybe also you've lost your hair along the way, check out HairDAO at hairdao.xyz.
What's up, y'all? Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
So maybe we'll tee it off here. What is Regens Unite?
Hi, everyone. So I think Regens Unite is a fresh way of gathering people. And with people, we mean all people working on regenerative solutions, so regens. And that is regenerative solutions in a very, very, very wide sense. So everybody working on regenerative solutions for you as an individual, for your soul, for your body, mindfulness, yoga, but also for people working on regenerative solutions for the community. And then I'm thinking deep democracy, nonviolent communications, new way of relating to each other, commons, and the whole story there. So really on local communities and bringing people and working differently together. And then, of course, on the biggest picture is the planet at large. People that are rethinking economic system, cryptocurrencies fits there, but also people that are building big technologies to capture CO2 out of the air, right? So what we want to do with Regens Unite is reinvent the way that we gather in real life, and where we can weave connections between those three levels and between each other, because we need a biodiversity of people working on different solutions. But we need to stay connected and be aware and learn from each other and see that we are all doing necessary work, and most of all, that we have to support each other in being as successful as possible, because our planet, actually not the planet maybe, but humans depend on us being successful. So instead of fighting each other, let's unite. Let's see how we can relate instead of convincing each other about, no, you shouldn't be building that solution. Let's listen to each other. Let's learn from each other and see where we can just get the best out of everybody working on these solutions and help each other.
Beautiful.
I think that's Regens Unite. Yeah.
In short, anything
In
to add?
short,
Yeah, maybe like it started because I come from originally from Belgium, but I've been living in the States for 10 years, mostly in Silicon Valley. And so I was kind of part of that startup culture, Web2, with Storify, Open Collective, and other things. And then when I moved back to Brussels like a couple of years ago, I got myself into those climate movements, such as Extinction Rebellion, Fridays for Futures, and others. And I realized that actually both in Silicon Valley and in those climate movements, we want to disrupt the establishment. We want system change, not climate change. And yet there is such a polarization, right? Where actually in those climate movements, people tend to actually dislike technology and run away from it, right? And then I try to get my friends from Silicon Valley to say, come on, please, can you please maybe stop working for all of those super corporations and start, getting involved in this climate emergency. This is something really, really important. Like we need all the talents, all hands on deck. And it was so hard to convince them. And I said like, crap. And I get like weird conversation in those movements, like, okay, I don't understand anything about crypto. This is really complicated. But I heard somewhere through a clickbait that you are burning the planet. So you must be a bad person. I don't want to talk about it. Go away with your technology, right? And we need to move from that conversation to, okay, I don't understand, this is complicated, but I can see that you are a good person. I can see that you are a regen. You also want to build a regenerative future. So you know what? I'm going to trust you instead of this clickbait funded through, this degen world. And I'm going to trust that you're going to use your best knowledge, your best tools to contribute and bring your piece of the puzzle. And only then we'll be able to really unite and start working together and offer an alternative to the current economic system that is very united.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's two threads that I want to pull there, and one is, I'm wondering how you're defining regen. And so maybe we can just start there. There's this really beautiful handbook that you all have put together that sort of talks about how you define regen and how to put together a Regens Unite book. So I'm looking at these graphs right here that I think are resource consumption types, and there's like a graph of number go up on the resource consumption type, and that's a regenerative economy. And I think that in the Green Pill book, I use the exact same graph that is from a Divya Siddharth and Stephen McKee blog post. So maybe I'm answering my own question here, but how would you define regen? And it seems like Green Pill and Regens Unite have a common provenance, if I'm not mistaken.
Totally. Yeah. How do we define regens? I think everybody who is willing to look inside to get us out of this situation, right? I think for me, that's a regen. Everybody who is willing to reflect and think a little bit like, what am I doing? Can I change something? And start a recovery process. And that can be on so many levels. Like there's no single fit solution. That can be on so many levels, and that gets out of this automatic pilot sort of way of living and things like, what am I actually doing? How can I be a lot more aligned with what I'm doing? How can I do that in a regenerative way? How can I connect with others in a healthy way? And how can I do that in a regenerative, resilient way and build trust? It's hard to come up with one solution, but I think that's the key. Open heart, open minds, reflecting about our current state of the planet, what we are facing, the crisis we are facing, changing a little bit yourself and the way you show up in the world, and starting from there in a regenerative way. Slowing down to speed up is also very much part of being a regen, I think. Slowing down. Okay, let's pause for a bit. What are we doing here?
Yeah, because we are rushing to get to sustainable solutions, but actually we don't want to sustain the current economic model, right? So we really want to actually change gears here. And that's what we call, system change, not climate change. And this is really the regens are all people that are working on regenerative solutions at the level of individual level, community level, or the level of the environment. And it's also about being constructive. Instead of telling other people to change or telling existing institutions to change, it's about actually, you know what, let's come together, let's unite, and let's start offering an alternative. Because until there's going to be a viable alternative, it's going to be really, really hard to convince people to come and join us. So So this is it. And then you mentioned like
Mm.
green pill. Yes, of course, absolutely. I mean, those
Yeah.
graphs have made the round. Your book was absolutely
Yeah,
great
yeah.
to galvanize the community. And then also like the first Regions Unite event actually happened very much thanks to Gitcoin, the climate round
Yeah, totally.
that we did together. And then also Momus, Eve, that's been really a big supporter. So really big shout out to them.
That's great.
And,
Yeah, Momus has
yeah.
supported our work as well. When was that round? Like how long has Regions Unite been running?
A year ago.
A year ago, yeah. So the first edition was the end of May 2022, so last year in Brussels. And that was an incredible help, like to get a push and a yes and so much resonance from that community is like an incredible, it stimulates you to move forward. So we were incredibly happy that this could happen. For sure.
It's funny how, like, at some point, like, kind of all the pieces of the puzzle come together, right? The universe always find a way. So we just happen to have that building at the corner of our street, that we call the Citizen Corner. It's a temporary occupation that we started because it actually turns out there are plenty of empty buildings in cities. So we really invite regions to go reclaim them because we need more spaces for people to unite, get out of their bubble, meet each other. So we had that building, and then we had that funding thanks to the Gitcoin grant, and so then things came together. It was a great opportunity to have a space to meet. It was nice, and then people loved it. It was something really fresh that they didn't expect. Right? It's the first kind of a Web3 type of conference that is gender balance. Fully, right? There was kind of a no PowerPoint, only power circles, as we like to call them, with facilitation, because the whole point is acknowledging that there is no monopoly on the truth. We are not here to convince each other. We are here to relate and share what we are working on so that people can have new insight and make connections and make sure that they walk in their ikigai, but the ikigai includes what the community needs, what the world needs. And so it's all about sharing, and that really people get out of that really inspired so much that they started taking it to other places. There was a Regions Unite in Berlin last September. It was fantastic at a great place, most space in Berlin. There were 200 people more over 2 days. It was absolutely fantastic. There was a great video on the regionsunite.earth website that I invite you to check.
Yes, we'll have a link to the website in the show notes, regionsunite.earth. Oh, sorry, Lien, were you going to say something?
Yeah, but also on the regenerative topic, like Xavier is coming from a tech background. I am not at all from a tech background. I'm a deep democracy facilitator.
And I'm a geek.
You're a geek, yeah. So, but we met each other in Extinction Rebellion. And to be honest, like the word regenerative, I was the coordinator of the Regenerative Culture Circle of Extinction Rebellion for about a year, where it was all about taking care of the community. Extinction Rebellion sometimes goes quite far. It puts people at risk getting arrested. So you need a lot of community care and regeneration before people can enter that risk zone again. So the first time I heard that word was in the activist world, right? And then Xavier came up with the Web3 and regenerative and refine, or like, what? Oh my God, they are really using the same vocabulary. We should bring those two communities and those two system changers together, and that is where Regions Unite happened. So it's key also that it happens in a community building, very local. The Citizen Corner, if you come there, it's an old warehouse. There is no luxury. It's it's a bit dirty. We try to clean it as well as possible, but it's like a real community center. You just open the doors. It's used by the community, for the community, run by a couple of volunteers. So it's very important for us that it happens there, because we give back to the community as well by organizing it there and opening up worlds. Very important for us. So that's what made the picture complete. It couldn't have happened anywhere else than there in the Citizen Corner at that moment, with the neighbors, with Youssef cooking the food, right? Because he cooks in the kitchen upstairs for the refugees that are sleeping on the street in Brussels, a couple of streets further, right? So it needed to happen there, right there where the people are. I wanted to add that.
Yeah. Well, it's great to know the origin story. Would it be fair to say that the primary product of Regens Unite is these Regen meetups? I've got the Regens Unite handbook in front of me, and it feels like you're kind of franchising out to do these meetups in parts of the world, and the meetups are kind of containers for people to find their purpose and place in the Regens movement. Is that a fair observation? And is the primary product of Regen Unite these meetups and community spaces?
Yeah, in a way, we are.
Yeah.
I like to say we are space engineers on Earth, right? It's about creating safe and great spaces where, at the same time, people from Web3 feel invited, people from Extinction Rebellion and climate activists feel invited, people from platform cooperatives feel invited, people from healing, inner work, process work feel invited, right? So it's kind of this neutral place where everyone feels very warmly invited and where we can relate. People don't go there and scared that it's going to be just a bunch of geeks, or it's going to be just a bunch of climate activists. No, it's a very well curated space.
Yeah.
And so we try to get the essence of that in that handbook so that other people can copy paste as much as possible and adapt to their local reality.
Yeah, and facilitation or an intentionality when creating the event is extremely important there. You really need somebody to think about, how do we set it up? We start every event with an opening plenary, an opening ceremony that is designed and really thought through to start weaving very carefully the connections between each other. Really following, it's not about exchanging business cards, but about exchanging stories. And one of the hidden missions of Regens Unite is that we hope that every participant meets or touches on one community that makes the participant feel a little bit uncomfortable, or like, oh gee, like, or a community that he or she is curious about, and it's like, oh, I actually, I never dared to reach out to them, but now I get the chance to follow a workshop, right? So I got this guy next to me to follow the first workshop on body work. He would never ever do that. But in a Regens Unite setting, you just have it happen around the corner, and you can embrace your curiosity. There is a safe space. Nobody will judge you. It's so new for so many people, and you get the chance to experience a community that is also regenerative in a different way than what you were working on, but it's such a great value.
And vice versa,
and
I
vice
get people to get their first crypto wallet and start voting on Gitcoin, for example, right? Because it's a space where actually people are curious, where it's allowed to be playful, to experiment, and go a bit outside of your comfort zone, where the real magic happens.
Yeah, playfulness is a very important energy that has to be there. Experiment, go out of your comfort zone a little bit. Like, it's okay. It's okay. We got you here. You can be you. It's fine. So yeah, that's on the Regens Unite Brussels. I'm super excited. We're going to build a more intimate space upstairs now. It's going to be back in the Citizen Corner. And we've got this incredible woman who is working on reviving life and sexual energy. And she's coming to do a workshop. And the first thing you're like, and then downstairs, there will be workshops on ReFi and on Web3, right? So, but the idea that the importance also of connecting to your own life energy and your own passion is so important when you're doing work that is aiming at changing the world, when you have big dreams there. So bringing those energies into the same space is actually the mission of Regens Unite. Bringing those people, weaving the trust, carefully building the community, and paying a lot of attention and to the intentional space that you're creating. Really, like, this is our aim. This is what we want to do. Create great experiences, memories, stories for people to share, campfire evenings. This is what we want to do. So,
and yeah, for the product, to answer your question, like, so that was kind of the first kind of product, but then get, forked, copy pasted, and then that's what the handbook is, kind of the second product, which is a book that people can download and kind of learn how to create such a safe and brave space to unite regions across the board. And since then, there's been an event in Berlin. Another one is coming up next September there. There was an event in Amsterdam. There was an event in Bogota during DEF CON. And so we also try to create those, work with existing event organizers to basically create a community hub, a regen community hub, to bring the regen vibe everywhere, right? And so that we can really weave, and create connection, bridges between all of those different communities. Because, wow, I mean, being in Web3, we have superpowers.
Yes.
Technology and those blockchain technologies are actually superpowers, coordination superpowers, right? But it's so important that we use those. With great power comes great responsibility, right? As the uncle of Spider-Man used to say. And so it's important that we use that, but from a place of reconnection with nature, with our communities, to really make sure that we're going to use those superpowers for, rebuilding that world that's going to work for everyone, not just for our own bubble.
Yeah. I'm reminded as I hear you all speak of a Decrypt article that came out about ReFi recently. And there's this quote from it that I'll just pull out. At this point, ReFi, regenerative finance is more of a vibe than a hard and fast category. And I was definitely getting the essence of the vibe as you all were explaining your Regens Unite events. But I'm curious if you'd push back on that quote at all, because it feels like there's the definition of regenerative finance that we've gotten into, but then it's like the vibe is really the way that you experience it, not the hard and fast definition.
To me, it's not or, it's and. I mean, ReFi DAO and ReFi Spring, they're doing a tremendous job, right? Yes. Creating all of those events around the world and getting the community together. It's very important. But it's not enough. We also need a way to make sure that we connect that world of ReFi with, connect the metaverse there with the realverse, with the people on the ground doing the work. And we're going to have to build bridges. We're going to need to have people locally who know how to use those ReFi tools. And those ReFi tools being built with those people in mind. And that's why it's so important that we touch ground every now and then.
Well, I sense maybe a yes and maybe I sense in you almost a difference between ReFi, which and Regens. So for me, ReFi is the root of regenerative finance. And then, you take off the regen part of that, the first 5 characters of regenerative finance, and you get Regens. And it almost feels like being less oriented around the technology of finance and more oriented around regeneration and localism. I'm on regensunite.earth right now. And one of the things that it says on the landing page that I thought was really very interesting was rooted locally and connected globally. So it feels like Regens Unite is focused on that rooted locally piece. Is that a fair, or is that too reductionist?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair, that's a fair assumption. The rooted locally, it's very important to us that it happens in community buildings, and that it's so accessible that the neighbors will walk in and also come to the event. That event organizers pay attention to where is this actually happening? Where are we? And how can we leave the space better than before we came? That is regeneration. That is rebooting a place. That is bringing value instead of extracting value. Like one of the things that we come from, it's called, the system that we are all trying to change, going to add value instead of extracting value. And then also we need, I said it maybe in the beginning, we need a biodiversity like in nature. We need a biodiversity of solutions. There is no one size fits all. We come from capitalism that is very much rooted in or, not and. We all need to be successful, right? And that can be very small. It can be big. We need and. Small solutions, big solutions, right? And we all need to be able to survive, right? In being in a regenerative way.
It's about going from monoculture of capitalism to permaculture, and that's true for events as well. We need the human permaculture in those events, and we also need to go from a monocurrency to a permaculture of currencies, because it's too reductionist to use only one scalar to measure value created in the world. It's not the same thing if you made millions of dollars by selling, gas in Russia, for example, versus if you made money by working for the local cooperative. And yet today there is no way to make the distinction. And the building next door can be bought by someone who just has the money, right? And so we need to move from monoculture to permaculture, and this is really about that.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the key ingredients it says of a Regens Unite event is that we embrace diversity and cross-pollinate. And I can just kind of hear that from you all. I mean, your example of Xavier, you learning breathwork and also teaching crypto wallets in the same event kind of gives me an example in my mind of the cross-pollination that a Regens Unite event can have.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's exactly what it's about.
It's about embodying that, right? The way you do anything is the way you do everything, right? So that's why it's really important to put a lot of care and thoughts into, okay, how do we do things? Making sure that we embody, everything. People don't remember what you tell them; they remember how you made them feel. The same goes for an event. And people after Regens Unite event feel rejuvenated. They feel like, oh wow, they discovered something new. Like they didn't go into the same, they did new people. They met new people. Oh wow, I had no idea that people in that community, that there were people in that community that were good people like me who care about the same things, right? And once you break that ice, beautiful things, beautiful new connections can happen.
Yeah. I wonder, you sort of described some of the feelings that people had coming out of it. But for me, I always felt like Green Pill and Regen Crypto Economics for me was exporting a sense of hope to the world and a sense of purpose. At least where I hang out, which is like lefty technologists, it felt like there was a lot of doomerism and a lack of hope. And, if we can combine these tools in this movement in order to create global pluralism and hope towards a better world, that was the feeling that I'm trying to export from this podcast. But yeah, no. So go ahead, Lean.
Yeah, can I add, because I love those, right? Hope and positivity. I want love to add one more value, and that is authenticity. Under hope, sometimes it's a lot of grief. There's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of human feelings coming up. Like, it's not easy. Let's also go through that together. Let's also face that. And that doesn't mean that we are not hopeful and optimistic, but sometimes we really need community to feel the support and to be together. So it's an invitation for authenticity, just as it is an invitation to, we got this. We can do this. Like, we have the power, all of us. If we land in authenticity, we have the power to change what needs to be changed. So yeah, the authenticity is very important to me as well.
Together we have everything we need to create an alternative. And community is immunity. That's why there's a climate emergency, but the real emergency right now is to rebuild community.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I guess like maybe that's a good segue into my next question, which is take me into a world in which you're maximally successful in, I don't know, let's call it 5 years or 10 years. What is a world in which Regens Unite and the broader movement that you're a part of, in which you're maximally successful? What does that world look like?
To me, it's a much less polarized world. It's a world where people get the opportunity every month to go meet people outside of their bubbles and can reconnect and relate to each other. And basically in every neighborhood, in every city, everywhere, we urgently need to bring people back together. Social media has played like kind of a negative side effect of social media has been this polarization. And so, yeah, to me, in a 5-year time, like I'd love to see that, because we need to unite. But I guess you get the message.
Yeah, I think I think with Regions Unite, what I'd love to bring, and especially with the facilitation and the deep democracy facilitation, I experience a lot of disconnection in the world. I see a lot of very lonely people. Also in Web3, those online communities can be very, very tough on people. I can only hope that Regions Unite can connect people again to themselves and to their community. And that really requires a space where people can be authentic. So I'm not sure, I don't really think on the long term. I just really focus now on Regions Unite Brussels. I hope that we can give people that good experience where they can feel them to be themselves, where they can cry and laugh and dance together. My God, we're gonna dance like never before as well together and move the energy through the room, and where people can leave rejuvenated, reconnected, like, oh my God, like, wow, I've missed this. I need this to stay healthy, to regenerate. Regions Unite is about regeneration of people. We need to feel regenerated when we leave this, not overwhelmed, not like, oh my God, there's so much work I need to do to change the world, not like, oh my God, like, no, reconnect to being human, reconnect to others, don't run away from each other, reconnect. So that's my mission for Regions Unite Brussels, and I don't know what that will look like in 5 years, but that's what I'm passionate about. So that's the vibe we need in the world. I feel that's what I want to bring.
Because also, like, there's this quote: "Doesn't matter how fast you go if you don't have the right direction." And to know if you're on the right track, on the right direction, well, you first need to reconnect with yourself and with your community.
Yes.
And I think actually you're gonna be, funny enough, way much more productive by slowing down and reconnect first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't have the muscle anymore, we don't have the practice anymore to work really with what is alive in us. What is alive in this group today? Where is everybody at today? How are you doing? How is it going? Right? And a purpose and a product that you're building together, or a project that you're doing, for sure can give you a purpose and a drive in life. But let's not forget that connection and feeling connected to one another and learning how to relate and deeply connect is a first human need that we need to fulfill, to not end up in empty boxes, in paper cardboard institutions anymore, right? Where people are just numbers, or people are just executing the vision of some visionary, right? So yeah.
And stop fighting each other. Sorry, coming up with, like, we are so much fighting each other right now. It's crazy. It's crazy. Whereas actually we are all in the same boat. We are all on the same planet. We should all urgently find for ways to put together a new economic system. Like just now, I mean, in the US and in Europe as well, like regulators are trying to, massively regulate the space. And it comes from not knowing. There is none of those regulators come to a Web3 event. They don't know all the positive aspect of it, right? And so that's why, like, actually, we all have a vested interest in making sure that there is a safe space for all of those people coming from all of those different angles that get to reconnect and trust each other and say, like, you know what? We gotta trust you. Like, maybe we shouldn't regulate this way, because indeed, like, actually, we trust you that this is new tools, and we need to, at this point, we urgently need to experiment. We urgently need to experiment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It feels like Regions Unite events are kind of this like little container for creating these values and creating this movement, and that could like fractally, if you get the formula right in one place, you could kind of like fractally expand it out into other communities across the world. And you're right, getting it right first is important before you grow. But I'm curious to follow you all over the next couple of years and see how you grow and have an impact.
How
And
it will-
really the
yeah.
broader regenerative movement within crypto and in the world, I think will be really interesting. And one of the questions that kind of comes up for me is, I think that most of our listeners of this podcast would identify as green pilled. And then we've got, the ReFi DAO people, and then we've got Regens Unite, and we've got people from Doing Good in the Giveth communities. And, what is the plurality of ways through which all of those people can work together is kind of that question is at the tip of my tongue, because I think that, we're embracing that plurality and that diversity, not only like within our groups, but between the groups, and the ways that we can cross-pollinate, I think is a way that impact can be scaled and made stronger and amplifying. So I don't know if you have any comments on that, about how the wider regen movement can evolve its culture and to work together.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually had quite a few thoughts about that in the past weeks, also connecting to ReFi DAO and to Daryl. There's a system or a tool for democracy, as you call it, that is called people assemblies. And in people assemblies, you create a space, actually just like Regens Unite is doing, where the only goal of the assembly is to learn about what is alive in the space. You introduce a topic. It could be, for example, financial sustainability in the Web3, like how do we all fund ourselves? Or it could be, how do we build trust? Or it can be anything, right? And you set up the space, and the goal is to bring all the voices that are alive in the space. Not so much to take a decision, but to really tap into the collective intelligence that is right there in the room. What is alive? What is there? What voices do we have? And then if we have time, we do a round like, oh, wow, what did you learn? And then you go back to your community, so that you don't have the risk of ending up in a bubble in your own project, right? And a lot of us read a lot, but the connection and the voice and seeing each other in a space, even if it's online, can be extremely helpful in keeping your feet on the ground on what is alive in the group, right? What is alive in the scene or in the Web3 space, or
it goes back to that image that I know you use in one of your episodes. I don't remember which one, of the elephant and the blind people around it, trying to figure out what it is. And we look at the head, we look at the tail, and everyone will come up with their own perspective. And so the question here is about, how can we be smarter together? Well, we can be smarter together by creating spaces where we can hear and we can invite people who have different perspectives to share their perspective, not to try to convince that, no, this is a snake. No, you're just looking at the tail, man. But still, it's an interesting perspective. It should be surfaced, right? And that's the concept of people assemblies. It is an assembly. It's actually, hey, and liberating structures, the democracy, all of those kind of practices is making sure that everyone get to share their perspective, not only the people who are okay speaking in public, not only extrovert, also introvert, not only people who can, write emails or speak, it doesn't matter, like the form, the way, like it's all about, okay, how do we maximize the different perspectives, and then we can make better decisions together.
Yeah, and Web3 could for sure, I think, from my perspective, but I'm only looking from my angle, right? Could definitely use a couple more intentional tools for democracy in the space. Like we're rebuilding a system, so we need also new government structures. Like, how do we keep this community healthy? How do we make sure that we are inclusive? How do we make sure that we walk the talk? There's a ton of incredible tools out there that we could start practicing, set up. And I think Regens Unite is trying to contribute. And it's, of course, again, a biodiversity of tools, not one. And a lot of DAOs are experimenting with different ways. It's incredibly, incredibly beautiful to watch.
It's exciting.
It's very exciting. Totally. Very, very exciting. Yeah.
You were talking about hope. Like, I don't know about you, but actually Web3 gives me a lot of hope. It's like, oh, wow, such a vibrant community of so many people all around the world. You don't need to be in Silicon Valley anymore. No. And they experiment, they fail, and they try again and again. Man, how cool is that? that's, we'll something good will come out of this.
Well, it
I feel the
already
same
is
way.
coming out.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to cut
it's
you off.
already
Go ahead.
coming out. It's like, yeah, no, we can want that for others, but if we just look at ourselves, I'm super excited. So I love working on this. I'm passionate. I feel playful. I feel hopeful. I feel connected. So it starts from there, from creating the vibe. And then, of course, also creating awareness around inclusivity, because I think we underestimate how privileged the Web3 space is. But yeah, sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna riff on what you said about hope. A lot of times Web3 provides me hope, but a lot of times it makes me really sad. And it's talking about Web3 is like talking about all of humanity, right? There are several different pockets of it. And the regen community I've found is like this little bubble of hope for me. But when there's like a rug or an airdrop or not an airdrop, a rug or a hack or an FTX, that makes me really sad. And like part of what I think of the movement that I'm trying to stimulate is about rotating capital and talent and attention and other resources from degen stuff into regen stuff. And that doesn't mean it has to be all like peace and love and hippy dippy all the time. We can have adversarial optimism, but what is a way in which we can make the regen stuff systemically valuable to the entire ecosystem so that it sort of overtakes I almost call it like the degen. It's almost like how nature evolves past cancers and viruses and towards like positive sum games that mammals and dolphins and mycelial networks play. So yeah, maybe I'm just yes-anding what you said there. But I just want to say that Web3 doesn't always bring me hope. Sometimes it imbues in me like deep fear and sadness, also depending on the day.
We need to accept it. It's part, we are all humans, right? And we also need degens. They also have a role to play. Right. And so to me, it's about accepting, okay, there is degens, but you know what? There are going to be people who join for degens at the beginning, and then they will start thinking about, oh, what else can we do with this technology? Right. It's like when you grow also, when you grow, I don't know. And anyway, like I think we all have a different piece of the puzzle. So we also try in Regions Unite to invite people to stay away from judging. Because nothing is set in stone. People can change, and even if people who don't change, really, like it's so be it. They also have a piece of the puzzle. It might not be obvious to us, and also, yeah, back to the privilege perspective. Like it's yeah, we come from so many different perspectives.
Yeah, we are all degens. We need to realize very deeply that there's a degen living inside all of us. And then if we resist degens outside of us, we are resisting parts of ourselves. And most likely that is the anger or the fear or the whatever feeling you get from that. So embracing that the polarity of having a degen and a regen is exactly where the creation happens. There cannot be regions if there are no degens. It's that's where it identifies, right? That's where it becomes something different. So it is as it is. Yeah, the creation can only come from there. Yeah, I cannot explain it differently. You should cut that last sentence. but it's true. Like the polarities, you need polarities for things, for the clash to happen, so that new things can emerge, and that new thing creates an identity to clash with something else. Like one of my gurus is Margaret Wheatley, right? And she says, like, the first thing an organism in nature does is create an identity. I am a cell. I transport oxygen through the body. That's what I do. So I don't export, So the first thing you do is create an identity, and that's not a bad thing. And an identity has values, it has a purpose, it has a meaning in life. Like, where it gets dangerous is where the identity closes down and it doesn't change to the environment, where it doesn't adapt anymore to the environment. And for that, and I see a lot of DAOs really, really practicing that, and it's beautiful. And that's also where a lot of our institutions in the old system, so to speak, fail, is that adapting, those short feedback loops, we take 3 months and then we evaluate. We don't go for long strategies for 10 years. No, let's first do this, reevaluate and see where we go. What was our mission again? Okay, so this is a little bit what we are here to do. Okay, now let's realign, let's use the feedback loop, and let's move forward slowly, consciously, intentionally, right? So yeah. I don't know why I was saying yeah. So yeah, Margaret Wheatley is really one of my gurus and my guides in this, like Joanna Macy with her Active Hope as well. And I love bringing that to the Web3 space, the way we run All for Climate, the way we run Regens Unite, the way we open up with open hearts and open minds in a receiving, conscious way, and move forward from there. With a smile and an embracing of experiment and a love for life, because that's why we do it. We love life. We love life. That's why we do all this.
I think that's beautiful. I was, just thinking as I'm just listening to you and trying to absorb the episode. Every Green Pill episode I host, I'm like a deer in the headlights while I'm hosting it, but then I listen to it like while I'm on a run or something like that. And usually I can't like fully appreciate it until I'm listening to it myself. But just listening to you talk, it almost feels like someone describing like a fine wine and all of the tastes in it and how they complement and contradict with each other. And so I'm like really just I'm like wafting the regen vibes right here. And I guess I'm wondering, with the 5 minutes that we have left, is there anything I didn't ask that you want to say? Like, paint me a picture. Let's waft some more regen vibes here with the 4 minutes we have left now.
Yeah. End of May, we have a Regens Unite Brussels, so you're super welcome. We've got some very interesting, very, very naughty names that are coming, so that's super cool. For the rest, I think a lot of people in the DAO, and ourselves included, would love, we are available for invitation, so to speak, on bringing this vibe to other festivals as well. So if there's anybody interested in bringing these vibes or working with us, we are very open for invitations for that.
Yeah, also an invitation for everyone to fork.
Yeah.
To copy paste, fork, adapt. Right, there was this Regens Unite Community Hub during the DevCon Bogota, and they did, for example, a cacao ceremony.
Yeah.
Right, and that's beautiful. And so, yeah, like an invitation to think about, okay, wherever you are, how can you be that bridge between this global Web3 world and then this local reality? How can you make sure that, this is going to benefit people wherever you are? Because we're not going to change the world. We're not going to offer an alternative to the current system without our neighbors.
The change starts at your doorstep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then, if people want to read the handbook, it's available for downloads on our website.
And don't forget the Gitcoin next.
It would be incredible if you could support us financially, because that's maybe also a thing, like, because we are so much on the intersection of worlds, and that's exactly the place where we want to be. It is super hard to get funding in for the events and to be financially sustainable. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a tragedy of the common, right? It's like when you are on the intersection of many different, then who should take the bill? Who should pay the tab?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the but
well.
That's
I think that's maybe
public goods.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's a public good.
I was just gonna say it's a public good. Yeah, so maybe that's a way that, like, the refi, more crypto economic people who are working on crypto economic ways to export tokens to those who are regenerating the commons interoperate with your work where you need funding and you're creating this amazing regen culture. That's an example of the interoperability of the Web3 space for me. But yes, we won't pontificate on that too much. Go contribute to Regen Unite's Gitcoin grants. I know that I will be when the round opens on April 26th. And then for call to action for the listener, change starts at your doorstep. Go to regensunite.earth and get involved in that community. Any other call to actions for the listeners before we wrap?
Follow on Twitter, join Telegram if you want to get involved.
Yeah, check all the other partnering events. Enchanted Village in July. There's a summer camp in August. There's so many events partnering right now with Regens Unite. So you get a lot of options this year to sense the vibes and to catch the vibes. So yes, visit the website.
All right.
It's
And
all
I
there.
cannot wait to see what is going to emerge in the world of Web3 with all of those people. We're gonna take the time in the couple of months ahead in the summer to reconnect with nature and with their local community and see how that's to me like how we're gonna bring the next billion of users to Web3.
Mhm.
It's so exciting.
That's a great place to end it. I really enjoyed the conversation with you. Felt deeply moved at certain points of it, and I hope that the listeners did too. So check out regensunite.earth for the listener, and thank you both so much for joining me. I really enjoyed the episode.
Thank you. It was our pleasure, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peace and love.